Now we're jumping into our AMD news for the podcast here, or for the part if you're watching it. So AMD is, interestingly enough, they're entering the networking hardware market, kind of. So they're partnering with MediaTek to make some wireless LAN, like Wi-Fi adapters, for both their notebooks as well as the Ryzen Pro lineup of notebooks, and potentially desktop motherboards and stuff like that too. So it's important for AMD to be jumping into this market because Intel has a almost monopoly on the consumer networking side of things. I mean, for Ethernet, it's it's a little iffy because you do have like a Quantia and a Realtek and stuff like that. But when it comes to wireless, it's generally Intel or sometimes Killer Wireless / Realtek, but oftentimes it's Intel. And honestly, the Intel stuff's generally more stable too. So I'm glad to see AMD actually making an attempt to enter that market to kick Intel completely out of their products. And hopefully they just make a good product that actually is, properly reliable and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, that's a pretty short little blurb there. Nothing super special except that, maybe we're going to see AMD start to do more and more networking hardware, which would be really interesting. Maybe to compete with Intel and also compete with NVIDIA, who just bought Mellanox, which we talked about in the last podcast.
I think it'll be interesting to see how much of this is MediaTek and how much of it's AMD.
Yeah, is it just MediaTek for the hardware licenses and AMD does all the design work, or what? It's not really specific about that yet. I couldn't find any details on it, although I'll admit this was a kind of quick topic to put in here, so maybe there's more details on it than in the articles that I looked at, but it sounds like we don't really know a ton yet. We just know the partnership's happening. Is it just AMD rebranding it like they did with Toshiba SSDs, where they just rebranded it as Radeon SSDs, or are they actually helping make the product better? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But hey.
Yep. We'll see. Just hopefully it's good.
That's the important part. And then this next one you actually threw in here. So Ryzen 4000, what's going on with that?
Yes, so there was some tweets from someone named Yuri Bubli, I think is how you pronounce that. He is the author of the DRAM calculator for Ryzen software and the clock tuner for Ryzen software.
So he knows his stuff a little bit.
Yes. And he has apparently information indicating a couple things about Zen 3 or Ryzen 4000 series. So essentially what he is saying is that one of the key features of Zen 3 will be the curve optimizer, which allows you to configure the boost of Ryzen processor. And in addition to that, you'll be able to customize the frequency for each core without any restrictions.
Yeah, so that's pretty impressive. So, okay, here's my first thing, though, to preface all of this as a request to anybody that has any relation to AMD that's watching this right now. Can you please make it so that you can have Hyper-V enabled on desktop and also use Ryzen Master to control clock speeds? That would be really nice. No. It'd be really great. No. Oh man, you have no idea how much I hate it when I can't use their amazing software. I haven't checked in the last 3 months, but I doubt it's changed. I can't use their software if hardware virtualization is enabled. And I'm like, there needs to be some kind of workaround. Even if it disables some features, I'd still like to be able to use the software at the bare minimum for monitoring. So yeah, you guys should fix that. But other than that, yeah, that's really exciting. I mean, being able to adjust your boost clocks curve is amazing. I mean, for some people that could be really, really valuable too, because if you're in a especially with how high core count Ryzen desktop is now, being able to tune that potentially systematically, like with a profile that you apply or something like that in the enterprise, you could be purchasing, you don't need a lot of processing power, or you have a lot of workstations, you don't need as high clock speeds, and you're trying to reduce the power usage to reduce your power bill. Being able to tune that could be really valuable, not just to enthusiasts, but I mean as a wider market, that could be a valuable feature.
And being able to do things like tune that down if you need to cut down on heat, especially as things get hotter.
Yeah, when everything's on fire, don't worry if there's a fire, approaching your house, at least you can tune your clock speeds down.
Exactly.
So then
that's
what
really
you're good.
Matters.
Well, actually, though, if you're running AMD, your house is invincible to fire anyway because it runs so cool. I mean, the fires were started by Intel, but AMD's
Yeah.
the fight back.
And then the next thing that he had tweeted out was that apparently they're going to be releasing 10 core processors.
Yeah, that one will be interesting. So, I think a 10 core is a good mark for a lot of people. Actually, I think it's just enough into that more production side of things without having to go full to like a 16 core or 12 core. It could be one of the best value parts for production style work. It might beat the 8 cores in value for production style work because if they can add those 2 cores for less than like a 25% cost increase, that starts to be a pretty valuable part, and then if they can do
Yeah.
it for, the
Now,
cost per core.
what do you think the configuration of this is going to be as far as the like CCXs? Because haven't we been seeing rumors that they're bumping it up to 8 next?
Yeah, so I mean, they can, they could do
At which
5 and
point are we
5.
looking at? Yeah,
They can
and
do weird layouts.
I'm wondering if this is actually their uh like um poor yield chip essentially.
It might be. Yeah, it might be like their, yeah, whatever's worst. I don't know. It's hard to say 100%. I actually unfortunately have not done a architecture rumor dive into Zen 3, so I'm not the best person to speak to it right now, but um even if we look at Zen 2 and the way that architecture has been built out, um it's going to be interesting to see what they choose for the it's not CCD layout now, but I think it's just hard to say, what option's going to be
Yeah,
best for them. Using more than one CCD is going to, obviously get better performance and thermal management and stuff, but
yeah.
um
Because
who
like my
knows?
guess as to how this would work is like singular CCD, 8 core chips would be the like higher end of the 8 cores,
Yeah.
and then with the ones that aren't active or like that have less active core counts there, if like 2 aren't great and so they decide to deactivate 2, that would then go into the 6 core, and then if there's 3 that aren't active, they would throw 2 of them together for this to get the
Yeah,
10 core,
they might,
and then
yeah.
they'll throw 2 of the 8 core CCDs together that are like in like the 2 of the top tier 8 core CCDs for the 16 core part.
Yeah, that would actually make a lot of logical sense. So maybe they are going to go that direction. I'm not, but again, I think it's really hard to speak to it exactly, right?
Yeah,
Um, we'll just have to wait and
like
see. But a 10 core
pretty much
part,
just
like, do you remember back in like when we were in high school, the 10 core part being like the OMG, I can't believe Intel managed 10 cores on the desktop.
yeah,
It's still pretty funny to look back at that and to
yeah.
be like, this isn't even HGT. This is just like normal desktop. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
could potentially see these 10 core chips in like a consumer, not consumer, but like a consumer business workstation, right? Where it's like it needs to be fast, but like 10 cores in a like
Yeah,
machine in an office. I just love it. I still can't get over it. I mean, I guess some people are gonna grow up with it and it's gonna be the norm for them, but I still can't get over it. So it's pretty cool. And then not gonna go into too much detail here because in theory, AMD is having an event tomorrow, or when most people are seeing this, probably yesterday. But AMD is having an event tomorrow, 9/9, according to rumors, and they're going to be talking about Big Navi, which may be what's getting announced there, and maybe biggest Navi as well. So a lot of Navi parts there. We don't know for sure if it'll be gaming or if maybe it'll be a workstation focused first. Maybe they will release biggest Navi and it'll be about production environment and supercompute. AMD's been doing better there than the gaming for a while. But there's not a lot of info about it right now, other than we know it's going to have hardware accelerated ray tracing, and it is going to work with Microsoft's DXR. So it's exciting news, but it's not stuff that we didn't expect.
yeah,
So I just wanted to throw that out there for anybody that if I manage to get this podcast up before the event happens, but judging by how late it is, that may not happen.
mm-hmm.
But if I do, watch out for this event on September 9th, 2020. If it's past that, then well, we'll talk about it in the next podcast, which will if this event's happening tomorrow, next podcast is going to be a long one.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that pretty much covers all of our AMD stuff, though. Actually, it wasn't as huge of a week for them. I don't know. The tech news has felt a little tiny this week, honestly.
Yeah, it's been pretty chill until somebody leaked the Xbox stuff, and then Microsoft kind of got forced to announce that. Like, we'd have even less to talk about if that didn't happen.
Yeah, like I've even been going through the security world, and there's not any major topics in the security world right now either. There's lots of little things to talk about, of course, but nothing major. So I don't know. I was a little surprised by that myself, but